Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Greg Talks. I am your host, Greg. I am also majoring in bioengineering, and I currently attend Oakland University. This is my co-host,
Erin. I am a clinical diagnostics major, and I'm currently also attending Oakland University.
And today we have two special guests joining us today on our last podcast on the stability series, which will be spiritual stability. So, okay, guys, introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'll go first. Hi, my name's Eliza. I'm currently a major in psychology, and I attend Wayne State University.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa, and I attend Oakland University. My major is integrative studies with a minor in jazz studies and digital media productions.
Awesome. And before we get started, my co-host Erin would like to break down the difference between religion and spiritual stability. So take it away, Erin.
Well, before I get into all of that, I'd just like to thank Eliza and Marissa for being here with us today. I am really excited to get into this with you guys. So for our last component of the stability series, we are going to be focusing on spirituality. But there are a lot of different interpretations of the word spirituality, so I'd just like to define this in the case of this podcast. So some synonyms for spirituality can be religion and spiritual strength, but it's important to realize that in this context, that spirituality is more of an independent role than religion. Religion focuses on beliefs and practices that are usually maintained by an institution and or the community or the members of said institution. But spirituality is more of how an individual maintains his or herself in order to find meaning of life and the symbols in their life. So a lot of people can express spirituality as a harmony between physical, emotional, and mental, or as the soul, the physical body, and the mental body. But in essence, all it is just taking yourself and the meaning of life in your own interpretation. So guys, now that I've defined spiritual stability in my sense, Greg, how do you define spiritual stability?
Well, I'm glad that you asked, Erin. So to me, spirituality or spiritual stability is finding your center through means of meditation and prayer. Whether you believe in God or not, I believe that those two things allow you to have a balanced grounding that allows you to make it through each and every day. Later on, I'm going to speak on some of the specific practices that I do, and I mentioned a couple of them, like prayer and meditation. But to me, that's ultimately what spiritual stability means to me.
Eliza?
Okay, spiritual stability, as someone who's like grown up religious throughout my entire life, spirituality and my religion have both been like it's a constant connection for me. So in turn, when I do religious practices, those are my form of reaching spiritual stability, in a sense of being sort of like what you said with like at peace of mind and like what my purpose is in life, what I'm trying to do. So that's how I try to define it for myself. Yeah.
Thanks, Eliza. Marissa?
Hello. So kind of to sum it down for me, I think it's more of like an art form, like mastering just to be stable, like one with yourself. And I feel like everyone has to go through a lot of, we'll just say, trials and tribulations in order to get to that point. It's literally like mastering an art form, like you master to play an instrument or master a skill, and it takes years and sometimes and really like your whole life to do that. And as humans, like, we're still growing, we're still evolving, and even who knows, when we pass away, we still have things to learn. So religiously, for me though, I consider it to be, for me, just praying every day. It doesn't have to be like long, super long prayers. It can just be thanking, whoever you believe in just for waking up today, just as simple as that. But I think it's something everyone has to go through, and everyone might not master it, within this lifetime, but hopefully that should be the goal for, everyone on this earth. But that's kind of like my interpretation of it, to keep things simple.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Since we're already getting on to the question of practices, Greg, are there any practices that you do consistently to remain spiritually stable?
Yeah, so a few of the practices that I do are prayer, usually around the evening time, and it kind of varies day to day. But what I'll do is I'll kind of just do like a prayer to God, basically asking Him for forgiveness, or just asking Him to lay certain things along the pathway for me to be a better person. So I do that every night. Another thing that I do is meditation. Now, I haven't mastered meditation, because if you know anything about meditation, like Marissa was saying, it is extremely hard to center yourself and forget about the external world around you. But once you found that Zen, once you've sat long enough in it, though, it brings you a certain satisfaction that I can't exactly put into words, because you have to just be there to understand it, though. But that's one thing that I try to do every so often. Something else I do is drawing and working out to boost my spiritual energy. Working out, I'm not going to say is underrated, but I think it can be very helpful to get your energy higher if you're feeling down. It has like this way of um, leaking positive energy into your being, because you feel good once you've gotten yourself a little bit stronger and once you've ran a little bit, you know. But those are like the three things. And like I said, with art, is kind of like a side thing for me. I don't really think it has ties to spirituality, but at the same time, it is art, and art does heal the soul. So I guess in a way, it does help. But that's me. Eliza, how about you?
Eliza.
Eliza.
No, but yeah, you're good. Honestly, so the way I try to, like achieve spirituality within my life, it's more of like there's both the religious side of it and then just like small daily tasks. I'll go a little bit in like the religious side. As someone who's Muslim, it's kind of confusing to explain, but we have two versions of praying, where there's like a daily 5 times a day thing that we do, where we kind of like, in a sense, like worship God. But then there's like other things where if we're going on a drive somewhere, we pray for like, oh, please protect us, keep us safe, and things like that. So in that sense, I do try to find my spirituality in that, of like asking God for help or God for protection. But then there's the other side of it where, for example, if I'm like in a really stressful situation, or like I have an exam coming up tomorrow and I just think like I really need to like step away from this, maybe I'll like, for me, I love art, I love painting and drawing. So maybe I'll take like 10 minutes in my day just to sketch around in my notebook, or maybe like suddenly I'll get like the burst of energy to like clean my room or like mop the floor or something like that. In that sense, like it's bringing me to my own sort of like self-awareness, like I'm bringing myself back into my own head, rather than having to constantly look at all the issues that are like going on around me, and like the clutter and mess of like the world and school and things like that. These sort of small little tasks of like painting, cleaning, asking for protection, those sort of things like bring me back to myself, if that makes a little bit of sense.
It does.
It totally does. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Marissa?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I kind of want to say it's whatever brings me peace. So kind of what, is it Eliza?
Yeah.
Okay, what Eliza was saying. So whatever brings me peace into, my mind, body, and soul, because it's really, all connected, whether people know it or not. So for me, like, for example, like, I'm a music student and I love to like play piano. I love writing song lyrics. Anything that has to do with an art form brings me a lot of peace, because I know one day I can share it, and at least someone is going to understand what it is that I've been through, or they could, be relating to stuff they've been through. So it just, it's whatever makes you happy. And it's really weird, like, how just it all, it's a lot to take in at one time, because you might feel something that has made you happy or brought you peace for this many years might not be what to bring you the same peace, years from now. So it's like, still understanding, yourself as a person. On top of that, understanding how your spirit, intertwines with, your issues and the rest of the world. And it's all just connected in its own divine way, if that makes sense. That's kind of all I have to say. I want to say more, but I guess when it comes to me, I'll just, shoot my hand up, try to share it. But, yeah.
Thank you. All of you guys have made such great points. In our emotional stability series and a little bit of our social stability episode, we touched on the differences between being oneself versus letting our emotions take control of us. And a big point to piggyback off of Marissa's point and a little bit off of Elisa's point is that when you have control of your emotions, and if you know how to cope with them instead of just treating them as some sort of backlash, then you're able to experience yourself more and feel yourself more as who you are, versus feeling yourself as like an anger management type of deal or something like that. And it's also really important, just to put that out there, that just because you are spiritual does not mean you cannot be religious. They go hand in hand, just like how a rectangle is not a square, but a square is a rectangle. Or vice versa, I forget.
I like
A nice metaphor.
I like
All right, so we'll move on to the next question, which is, are there any impactful situations you guys have experienced in which your spirituality has played a significant role? So it could be some sort of conflict, or if you have been talking and developing relationships, if that has helped you bond with somebody that you have personally stayed in touch with. It could be any type of experience like that. So Greg, I'll let you take the stage.
So for me, and I'll speak on just a recent situation. So the death of George Floyd obviously has affected all of us. But being a Black male definitely affected me quite hard. And this isn't like that was the first time that happened, because Trayvon Martin was the initial thing for me, my first experience of that. But for me, how I decided to cope with it was I decided to stop making excuses for not speaking my mind on the situation. And I decided to tell people how I thought, what I thought about it. And what it did for me was it made me feel a lot better to get my emotions out there. I also had to do a little bit of prayer, not so much for me in this situation, but for the people that have been doing our people wrong, essentially, like hoping that at some point they're going to stop being ignorant, hold themselves accountable for the actions that they've taken against all of us, and try to work with us to perpetuate some kind of change. So that's something that one of the experiences. There was another previous experience where I had like an emotional breakdown. It was before I came to Oakland University. My mentor had passed away. He was a longtime mentor for me. And it definitely kind of broke me, because he kind of was one of my biggest motivators, and one of the people that stuck up for me when other people did not necessarily believe I had the potential that I had. And on top of it, academically, I wasn't doing the best at the time. So a lot of that stuff just kind of came down on top of me. And, you know, I cried not only for him in my room though, but I broke down kind of, you know, because of like the disappointment, but you know, it was all kind of like building up in me, and it all kind of came out. And what I had to do was I had to like go and like talk to my counselor to teach me about some breathing exercises. I had to start talking to accountability partners within this past year that I've been at Oakland. And then I also had to like pray every day to make sure that I had that spiritual confidence in my ability to like keep going. But that was, those are probably like some of the two most prominent things that have affected my spirituality and caused it to strengthen. So, yeah.
I am sorry for your loss, but I am so happy that you have a solid social group and social support that are backing you up. And I'm glad that you have gotten to reach the situation that you are here today in.
Thank you. Elisa,
take it away.
So, honestly, when I think of like impactful situations which have played a part in my spirituality, or like my spirituality have played a part in them, it's mostly my relationships and connections with people, whether that be, you know, friendship or like someone I'm dating, things like that. My spirituality has always come into part with it. And recently, I know Aaron knows about this, but I was dating someone who wasn't, I guess, wasn't religious. I wouldn't say not spiritual, but our forms of spirituality were different. And so sometimes we would have not conflicts, but like because our differences in beliefs or spirituality were different, we would have issues in what one thought was okay versus the other like didn't agree on. So what maybe they thought was okay to do, and I would think, no, you shouldn't, and it's mostly because of what I believe in. And so in that sense, a lot of the time my spirituality comes mostly into play, at least for me, when I'm interacting with people. So I also had another experience where recently my grandfather on my dad's side passed away. And so he had been someone who was like I was very close to in childhood. I hadn't seen him in a while since middle school because he went back to Pakistan, which is where my family's from, to live with my aunt, my dad's sister, who could properly take care of him. But when he recently passed away, it was a very, I guess, eye-opening moment, because until then I hadn't had someone from my direct family pass away yet. And one of the things I remember thinking, especially because of my parents and the family around me, is like, what do I do now with this like information, I guess? Like, how do I move on, or what do I do about this situation? And one of the ways I found to cope with it, I guess, is praying for them. And then also I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's basically like I found security in a conflicting situation, in a difficult situation, with myself and with my spirituality. It was able to help me cope with during that time. So yeah, those are the
That's beautiful.
yeah.
I'm also sorry for your loss.
sorry to make it so intense. Yeah.
If you
That's fine.
anything like these twos, I'm sorry for your loss too. If not, please ignore what I'm saying and please take the stage.
No, perfectly fine. So I can honestly relate to what both of them are saying. I've had a lot of loss this year, last year, and the year before that. So for me, I want to say like a spiritual awakening more. for me, it has to be when people close to me have died, and it gives me an eye opener as to I really need to build more connections with the people that are here now. So, you know, I don't want it to ever be a situation, because this has happened to me before, where I might only speak to, you know, this certain family member once a year, or, you know, every time we have a reunion or something, and, you know, next minute, you know, they're gone. And it's like, it's still things I still, you know, want to know about this person I've known since I was a kid, and you can never get that back ever. But no, I most definitely understand where they're coming from. But death to me is like, it's not something I think about all the time, but I really think about, you know, we don't know how many days we have left to live. So really enjoy it with the people that, for one, bring you positivity and light to your life, and that add to, you know, whatever your calling is in life, and to really block out the negative things, people, spirits, etc. But yeah, that's kind of what I have to say with that. Because, you know, I can go into stories about who's died and how it's affected me in different ways, but I don't want to. It's going to be a long list. We'll be here forever. But yeah, that's kind of what I got to say, you know, to that.
Got it. Very much appreciated.
No problem. Thank
All of three of them, we've learned that spirituality is a combination of strength, security, and awakening as well, and resolution. So it's important to sum up with all of that, that spirituality is more along the lines of knowing oneself, and knowing oneself through relationships, not just who you think you are yourself. And to work with both of them in order to gain more of a spiritual sense of self, if that makes sense. So our final question is, how has your spirituality affected your development or growth into the person that you are today? Greg?
Okay, so throughout my childhood, like, and I'll just start like at the very beginning. So I was introduced to Methodist Christianity when I was in elementary school. I went to this AME Baptist church for a couple years, and then I switched. But during that time, a lot of my spirituality was grounded in going to church for the most part when I was young. I didn't really take it seriously back then, because all I looked forward to in terms of that was getting to go to Bible study every weekend, hanging out with like my church friends when we would do like the choir, and then going downstairs into the like computer room, because, you know, some churches like have the downstairs basement section where they have like games and stuff like that. So that's what it was based upon. It wasn't until I got older and started actually listening to the sermons that the pastor would give at my current church that I started to actually put some of those words into action day to day. And I started to change the way I moved around people and the way I acted around people. So I will say the way I look at spirituality now is more of a guideline to follow, but not necessarily one that I must follow word for word. So that's me. And even now, like, I don't go to like church all the time though. And frankly, I'm a believer that while church does strengthen my faith, and I do need it like every so often, it's not necessary for you to keep your spiritual connection strong if you're still continually praying, if you're still meditating, and you're still having that one-to-one conversation with your higher power. So, but that's me. How about you, Lisa?
I mean, a lot of my situation is definitely like extremely similar to that. So like every Friday when we go to the mosque, as a kid, it was more of like, oh, I get to see my friends that I know that go there. And then as I grow older, I became more aware in like what my beliefs are and like what I may or may not disagree or agree with, but like finding my like an actual connection to my religion. But not only that, I feel in my childhood, my spirituality and religion have impacted my moral code, especially like 100%. The way I look at my surroundings, the way I interact with people, like my spirituality has definitely affected that. And I remember one specific instance where I noticed that was an interaction I had with a friend. So in my religion, it's taught that being gay or being bi and things like that is wrong, right? And I had never ever met someone who was like gay or bi or trans or whatever, until I think it was my freshman year of high school, where I made a friend, and I didn't realize that they were bi or gay until later, after I had made like a strong connection with them. And that's when I started thinking like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would that be wrong? Or why is it bad, like, for someone to be like that? So spirituality I didn't realize at the time, but it strongly impacted the way I looked at my connections with people, and like the way I saw like other people's beliefs. Like I believe in this certain thing, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong to believe in that. Like, you should 100% believe in whatever makes you comfortable and happy. So that's definitely one of the things that like my spirituality has affected me, like growing up since.
Very strong point.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
You're on mute, Marissa.
You're on mute, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, you guys hear me?
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my bad. I'm sorry. But no, that was a very very strong point. And kind of to piggyback off of that, when I was younger, I was really taught to just treat people the way you want to be treated, and even when they treat you wrong, still be a nice, loving person, because you never know what someone is going through. Because usually when people do wrong, they're doing it and not even to really hurt you, but because they're hurting. So it's like hurt people hurt other people. And if we, as humans, if we were to keep that cycle going, it'd just be a world full of hurt people, not healing as a world. And it becomes a domino effect, in every aspect of our lives. But for most of my life, I've been Christian. We'll just put it that way. My mother's Christian, grandmother's Christian, whole family of Christians. And yeah, that was part of our practice, and I just didn't understand that as a child. But as I got older, I started to understand like the ways of practice have incorporated, into my life and how I deal with other people. And it really has helped me build a lot of connections, with people I really didn't even know, like I would have connections with. And I think it's just so important to, minus spirituality, just to have connections with people, because you never know who you're going to need or what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. So it's just always good to I just want to say, be nice and be helpful as much as you can, and just to give even when you don't have much to give. I don't know if that's one of the rules of the Bible. I don't know, somewhere in there, but that's pretty much what I've been taught and what I've learned. And we're at an age where we're raised pretty much. So whatever we've been taught, that's what we're going to carry on now to the rest of our lives and teach our children. So yeah, I'm just pretty happy like where I am, and just happy that my mother was able to install those values and lessons into me. So I feel like I'm contributing to healing the world in, the smallest ways possible, because, just good kindness actions, they go a long way. So that's kind of how yeah.
Thank you, Marissa, for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
So, all in all, and before I let you cap us off, Aaron, I just want to say thank you to you guys for sharing your experiences today. This episode would not have been, I don't think, as genuine without some other perspectives, because I just didn't want it to be us two. So thank you so much for coming on. And Aaron, I'll let you close us out.
Awesome. All right, guys, we are wishing you the best. Currently, Michigan is going through yet another round of COVID-19 increases. And I know all around the US, it's basically the same thing. I don't know about other countries, but I hope all of you guys are staying safe and being smart. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Yep, thanks. And also, remember to subscribe, comment down below to engage with us, follow us on follow me on Amino. I'm under Greg Talks. We have an Instagram page at Greg Talks. That's GregTalkZ. So just go on over there, chat us up. We'll always be free to continue this conversation, as long as you're willing to, of course. And with that, just like Aaron said, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Bye.